Hi, everybody. Welcome to We Didn't Turn Out Okay. I'm here with dear friend and expert, and I want to say colleague in the field of motherhood, Elizabeth Barron. She's a psychotherapist who helps women in all stages of motherhood, from before, during pregnancy, after, and beyond. And she's in New York City and a mom of two daughters, 5 and 2.5, right?
Almost 5 and 2.5.
Yes,
she would say I'm 4 3/4. Right?
They'll age, yeah. Totally.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy you're here and already know that we're going to quickly run out of time.
Agree.
Because
That's what happens.
The best conversations, yes. So let's dive in. Is there anything that you want listeners to know about you and what you do?
I think that sometimes, ever since you and I met, right, when you learn the word perinatal, people are like, wait, what? There's a specialty for mental health treatment when people are becoming parents? Yeah, there is.
Even I will say like pre, post, and the terms are.
So I think that's helpful for people to know that there's, I specialize in a really niche population called the perinatal population, which begins from the trying to conceive time period throughout pregnancy and postpartum. I always say once postpartum, always postpartum. So I really support women as they become mothers and throughout motherhood. I'm not a parenting expert. I'm more of an expert on mom's emotions and her emotional mind, which we're going to talk all about.
Yes.
And then important to call out that in addition to the perinatal work, obviously that includes, unfortunately, an amazing amount of women that are struggling to conceive with infertility and loss, which I know you've experienced. So that's a huge part of my work too.
So needed and so important. I wish I had you then.
I know. You have me now forever and more. But it is true. I do think that while my training at Columbia at Teachers College was more general, I went on to train. I think that's where we met at the Motherhood Center in New York. I think I invited you many, many years ago, which is a treatment facility that specializes in helping moms that are struggling with their mental health throughout motherhood. So I just always want everyone to know, you don't have to be super acute or really, really in a dark, deep depression to ask for help. And I think we're going to talk more about sort of what that looks like today.
Totally.
So
we absolutely will. And I thought that we could start out with a little anecdotal story that I heard from you that resonated so much with me and is so important for moms and anyone, and modeling for our kids.
Yeah.
So can you tell us the taxi story, which I just named it?
I know, the taxi story. Jenny and I were at an event. For everyone listening, if you could just pause and think about the December season of the holidays, right? I think every mom borderline loses it.
Yeah.
I certainly was struggling wearing 7,000 hats like we always do, right? And I think we saw each other that week before the vacation. So I needed to squeeze in 30 women and couples and my own kids and wrap presents. And
when you say 30 women and couples in your practice,
in my private practice.
Not in your home.
No. Oh my God.
Or a car or whatever.
2 is enough, although my husband too. I mean, right? Everyone has so many needs 365 days of the year, but certainly around the holidays too.
Yes.
And so I was on my way to an event where you were also with your kids. We go every year to this really sweet event where we wrap gifts for children who don't have. It's sort of like a core belief and value in our home. And I remember it was pouring rain and there was a lot of traffic. And I had this thought. I looked at my to-do list, as I always do. And, on my phone, which feels like it's sort of hijacking happiness. This is my other new thing we need a whole episode on.
Yes.
And I was overwhelmed with the things I needed to do and actually genuinely excited by traffic, considering that I felt like that was room in that moment
feeling
to do all the things. Instead of this really profound, I think, pause that we think sometimes, I think I want everyone listening to know that there's a choice in moments like this. And one thing that I think I'm struggling with in motherhood, even as psychotherapist, is the balance and is this reality check that I think I often need to have around how much do I want to be doing versus being. And so what happened in this taxi cab was I looked at my list and I was energized and excited. And then I paused, held my daughter's hand, and realized there's choice here. And I could either do the list and feel incredibly productive. I mean, that adrenaline when it's like all the things, check it off, it's all done. Or I could hold her hand, look out the window, look at the holiday lights, and simply be together and still. And I think my daughters and I don't have a lot of quiet time. I mean, I'm not sure about your house. Ours is loud and vibrant and energized, but we were borderline silent, talking quietly about sort of the rain. And are you getting tearful again every time? And so then we took it in. We walked into that event. She squeezed my hand and said, "Mommy, I love being with you." It's making me cry now. It was amazing, right?
Yes, it just really is. And I think what made you decide to hold the hand? When you said there's always a choice, sometimes you miss that there's a choice. So was there something about like a radical, is it something you were needing to work on?
Work on, teaching my patients every day, day in, day out. I hear from, again, 30, 50 women a week. I'm so overcome. I feel like a human octopus. That's sort of my metaphor. I feel like I can never get enough done. I'm up at 11 o'clock at night doing my list instead of being with partner in bed watching a show. And so I'm trying really hard. My mission is to walk more of my own walk and talk more of my own talk, which is really what I'm struggling with as therapist who's growing and evolving a practice, and very involved in my girls' community and my own community and my friendships, and something always
all
drops, right? Yeah. But it really has been a process for me to activate something in me that says, okay, Elizabeth, like, lower your shoulders, there's choice. And then, Jenny, I don't know if you feel this way, but these moments with the girls are so fleeting.
Well, that's why I get emotional every time. It's sort of like those moments or those stories you hear that no matter what are always going to strike a chord with you. And I think why it hits me hard is because of the sort of validation you got from, how old is she?
She's almost 5,
From your 4-year-old that you made the right choice then.
True.
And how often the ball we drop, and I don't mean it meanly or shamefully, I do it too, in those moments is our kids,
Agreed.
in those moments of, I just had to finish this email, not like extensively, but even those small micro moments of, Mom, I need you 1 second is a choice we're making of making them wait.
Even that, to hear the 1 second, how about when you don't respond? Like I can close my eyes and see myself in the kitchen in my pajamas at 7 a.m. Phone is sometimes in front of my face. And this has been, I think, an awakening for me over the last couple of months especially. And I really want to like normalize for everyone listening. We understand the phone is our communication skill and tool, and what do you want to say, right? It's everything.
Right.
And it's also a barrier.
Totally.
Right? So
and that's why it's such an important story, I think, because I think no matter how old a child, how young, how nonverbal, even teens, adults, that
practicing,
there's always, or just that when a parent takes a moment to not drop you as the ball in those moments, that it's always the better choice.
True.
We can't always make that choice, but we'll never regret making that choice.
Agree. And I think whether you're working in the home or working in an office or some sort of in between, the reality is there can be some structure around making these choices. And I would talk to children about this, right, as mom in the room, to be like, I can't always. Sometimes I do need to call back that person. Sometimes I do need to be on the phone with the pediatrician. Sometimes I do need to do my clinical note, or
but saying it is better than just this sort of, as you said, barrier that just shows up in their life. I even think you can talk about with your child boundaries you're trying to set for yourself around it. I've done that recently.
Good.
I said and it's nice because, I mean, I have a 5 and 7-year-old, so it's different, but they call me out.
I know.
Mom, you're breaking a promise. And they know it's a promise I've made to myself. I've made that clear. This is something I want to do for me.
Yep.
So that they don't feel like they're a barrier to my work or anything. Like with the New Year said, I'm in the mornings. Work for me doesn't start till 9, but when you're an owner, an entrepreneur, it can start at 24/7.
All the time.
But, I made the choice that no matter what's happening before 9, I'm at a stage in my career that it's okay.
It can wait.
Right? Yes. And I have a supportive infrastructure. It definitely then at 9 is probably more of a buildup than it would have been. But I can say that I feel better just knowing that. And when I have that pull in the morning, just being like, it's okay.
Totally. I'm helping moms with that all day long too.
Right.
And then that middle of the day, like so someone's working remote, they drop the kids off at 9 or really like 8, I don't know. And then asking them, is there room in the middle of the day to do the load of laundry? Is there room to jump on a Peloton? Is there room to call back a friend so that when the kids return, and there's not always, right? There's a lot of jobs, and I'm sure a lot of people listening that are like, no, that's not appropriate, Elizabeth, and we understand. And I think then can you say to partner Saturday morning, I need 40 minutes, or I need to sleep, or I need to get to that class that I want to do with my friends. So it's really helping this sort of human octopus metaphor ground ourselves to say, I mean, see, we're on this podcast. What did I warn you? Every recording.
I don't think anyone could hear that, but her phone just vibrated.
I do. It's many, many times, right?
Yes, but take this hour,
it's an
Elizabeth.
Important thing. I have to take that in.
No, and honestly, this is a good example. Right before I walked in, I called my husband, our nanny, and my mother-in-law, all the people that are
your team.
My team. And said, I'm going to be off for an hour, so just making sure everything's in place. And that's because I've been doing this. But when you don't, like it's not necessarily automatic. But I think that's so helpful to not feel like things will build up. Even to tell my work, I'm not available till 9, or put it in the calendar that everyone can see.
But these are skills. And for people starting out, I think
it can feel daunting. I'm 7 years into motherhood.
See?
8 years into this stage of my career. Yes. No, this was a 1 month ago thing.
Right. So it's like, but then feeling really proud of yourself that you can do that and feel okay. And I remember you back in the day with more guilt and more sort of like,
oh my God.
Right. We're both.
I can't believe that.
Recovering people pleasers. And
I probably was wearing I am a guilty people pleaser.
And look, now what you can model that it can evolve. I actually think there's no it's not like if we feel no guilt, we're a better mom. It's that it evolves. That season changes too. And bear with ourselves and tell our kids. Because I think that's the thing too. I don't want everyone to feel like I have these magical, beautiful moments with the girls only. There are definitely moments when they say, you work a lot and, now you're in an office and I don't get to see you as much. And we talk about it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And I think that those times are powerful too for us to not kind of let go of this what we've built in terms of the boundary around, I do need this and I shouldn't feel guilty. There are times when, Nell will be like, why were you the only mom not at gymnastics or this or that? And the old me would have been like, really?
I know.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Really this tone, because that's what I would feel.
You felt it.
And now I'm like, is that really? No, not is that really. Oh, wow. All the other moms were there, or there was other moms there, and that made you feel sad. And to kind of say that I wasn't there today, there will be a time when I can be there. It's obviously it's in the moment and not,
That's conversational, right?
Right.
Just like we as friends. Oh, I'm sorry I can't make that date.
And it's a really hard skill. I have a very hard time, I think, socially with that, not feeling like a people pleaser. But with my kids, what motivates me to respond differently is that I don't want them to grow up apologetic the way I am. And the way I was oh no.
I know. I'm so with you.
Just not setting a good example.
I know. Well, because you took it in, their feelings leave their body and get inserted into yours, or that their mom was uber focused on our needs. I mean, it's both beautiful from an attachment standpoint without getting too clinical, and also from a secure attachment standpoint, what we know is moms have to leave and come back.
Yes,
right?
we should get into that. I think that is really helpful actually for moms, and we can both give perspective on this.
Definitely.
I think there's probably a lot of moms that come to both of us and talk about, for me, what do I do with separation? I just had a friend call me today about it. My daughter's having a really hard time regulating when I have to leave, even if I have to go into the bathroom or this or that. And I'm sure moms come to you paralyzed by whether it be from their kid or themselves not being able to separate.
Yeah. And so here's what I love about both our always partnership is like, you're the expert on what the kid is feeling. I'm the expert on helping mom understand how normal it is what's happening for both their kid and for them, right? They're having feelings too. You remember those feelings when you're leaving a first drop off and we're the ones who needed sunglasses, right?
Yes.
I mean, I probably sent a caregiver a time or two too much because I knew that wasn't a bad thing. It was better for my kid and probably better for me than to see the tears, right?
Yes.
But I think that is a great example where I do in my practice, I'm giving skills. Maybe we're coming up with mantras or songs. Why is it any different than a bedtime song that you sing before you leave the crib? Like every night from routine. This is what we should be talking to, right? Same when you leave on a Saturday night to go out. I mean, my 4 3/4 daughter, when I told her babysitter's coming, I did not acknowledge my old guilt the way that maybe I would have said, don't you know, and I come back and and you're going to have so much fun, and all the ways that we are helping our own anxiety sort of be
talking ourselves down.
Right?
Yeah.
And instead, she ran into my room as I'm getting ready and was like, who's your play date with tonight? Meaning she knows that mommy also needs to go out with friends and have, quote, play dates, if you could see, right? When she was 2 years old, that was really hard.
Yes. And I want parents to hear this because you've probably been telling her for a while now,
Correct.
You play and have play dates, and mommy sometimes needs to have play dates too. And there's probably been many times you said it and it felt like it was just going over or like she was just crying through it and it wasn't helping. And a lot of times you get parents who will say that didn't work. But over time,
absolutely,
what you've wired for her is when mommy is going out with daddy, it's for playtime.
It's such a good point. Well, let's tell your friend that who's struggling with separation, because similarly, the things that she's working on now foundationally are going to help, by the way, when the kid has to go to college. I mean, it's the same
So that was what I was going to ask you too, that my guidance usually centers around how can I motivate parents through what's best for their kids, because that's what motivates me. Honestly, like as opposed to myself, what's better for myself. Right. And I'm wondering how.
Why not both?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, like just the person I am. Now I'm trying to improve it because I want to model better.
And because you don't want to transmit. We say like there's multi-generational transmission of symptoms, of guilt, of people.
But what if I came to you when I was thinking of becoming a mom?
Well, think about actually being pregnant or trying to conceive when all of a sudden your body becomes a vessel for someone else. It's the beginning, right? Yeah. And so my favorite work is when people call and say, before I'm starting, my partner and I are no longer, it's different. Back then, your biggest issue is where you're having dinner, right? For partners, and then becoming parents, that transition, what that brings on too. I guess
you mean like before parents to parents. Yeah. I was just talking about that also with a colleague that like what we think about now and what everything means now is so different. Like free time and
all those things. Right. So it starts from the beginning. And my point is, in treatment, which I think is different than when you're with mom friends, but it still works if your mom friends are honest and vulnerable and transparent and authentic like you, is that you're talking about where did you come from before this? So like if a mom is in my office or a trying to conceive woman is in my office and says something like, no, my mom was a masochistic martyr and was at every drop-off and I don't ever remember ever feeling disappointed by her, and now
that was my mom.
So there we go, right? Why then, how would you even know, Jenny, how to not show up to ballet? How would you even know to send?
I like ask her all the time. I'm like, I never remember you yelling.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Why can't I remember you yelling? Or I never remember you not being there, or it's just.
But you've now idealized, understandably so. Your mother sounds wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Idealized, and then anything but is lesser than, instead of maybe it was a different time. Maybe she didn't work in the same way.
Right.
Maybe,
no, and
making space for who's Jenny as a mom.
Right.
It's all connected to what was modeled.
And it's funny, like, right? It's not funny. I'm just saying it's not so linear. It's not like because of you, I'm X, but just these these things contribute?
All the environmental stuff.
Right.
We call this psychodynamic theory, like psychodynamic therapy, going back, who shaped you, who was there, what was absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, similarly, hi, Mom. Someone who I look back now, also one of 3, who struggled professionally between being both home and at work. And
you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Meaning there were moments that she tried to go back into the world, but I think her heart was with us. And she clearly felt ambivalence and, the push and pull that you and I are always bonding over too, right? Which, by the way, just again, for everyone listening, is the cornerstone of life, feeling ambivalence and torn, right? We're both here right now. I could be at the Broadway class week applause thing. I don't know, the parent thing. And it's okay, right? Like there will be another one, and trusting that. And I think my mom didn't trust enough that, talk about attachment, it would be okay to leave us.
And for anyone listening, yes.
Right?
And for anyone listening, we sometimes, or I don't. I literally, this is such an important example. Sorry to segue over this powerful, vulnerable thing that you're sharing, but it's very much the same thing. I went to Tess's medal ceremony at gymnastics yesterday. And there was one girl I knew the mom wasn't there. She also knew, but you would never know that.
Correct.
I was like devastated for like myself. Like it was just all me, like
projection.
Yeah. Obviously I didn't say anything. It was me internally just being like, I could never not be here. Meanwhile, Tess wouldn't even stand up, didn't want to be part of it.
Of course. Which, by the way, how'd that go for you? Because I know that could be hard for you.
Very, very rough night. For a
Yeah.
different episode, not just about that, a series of things. But it's so, I don't think she would have, but that being said, she would have maybe not wanted to do it and then later been like, why weren't you there? Like, so there's an element of being there, even if it's your kid sitting in a corner.
Agree.
Yeah.
It's funny. Well, today I had a caregiver intercept from school to after school. That was a big deal. And I saw my daughter's reaction this morning when I told her I had a work commitment after school, which sometimes I try and finish up by, right? Like we're all trying to figure it out, the balance. And I was so proud when I'm sure one of the vibrating text messages that I keep hearing is videos of her joyful and gleeful with people that she loves, part of her community.
Right.
That works too. But tolerating her reaction this morning is the work. That's sort of what we're saying.
That is the absolute work. And to stay sturdy in those moments, even if inside we're like, oh, should I? Like, am I making the right decision? That it's important for our kids to know that we feel okay.
Agree.
About those decisions.
Well, now I want to ask your mom, and for everyone, it doesn't mean, by the way, even me, psychotherapist, specialist in perinatal mental health, didn't have worry this afternoon. How's it going to go? Will she go to the bathroom? Will she have a snack? Will she be tearful? That's appropriate. That's love and connection, right? And actually in treatment, our job as therapists isn't to remove the worry.
Right.
It's to get to know it better, right? And
I was
then
just going to say, you were aware of that.
Oh, yeah.
And you got through, I say it's sort of like a tunnel that each like thing we go through mentally, whatever, like you knew there was another side to it.
Exactly.
You didn't say this worry is going to take over and now I have to like cancel and go.
And I hope what you did last night at bedtime after you probably lived, I don't know, like through a war.
It was, I said it
was knowing that this morning was going to be a new day to start over and repair and talk and love and put the phone down and connect, right?
Yes.
But that takes being what I'm going to call like a veteran mom and really getting more comfortable with these peaks and valleys that we expect in motherhood, you and I.
Yes.
And I want everyone to. I think there is this idea that it is all rainbows and happy and wonderful and blissful. And I think it's a huge contributing factor to mental health issues. That then when you feel anything but, we're left feeling like something's wrong with us instead of we're humans.
Yeah.
And we know how to sort of roll with things like this.
Yes.
Right?
Which is another thing that we wanted to talk about that I said I'm struggling with. Also knowing that things are temporary.
Oh my God.
But I even have trouble saying it. And I have to tell you why it came up that I have this app on my phone I really downloaded because I had the Gabby Bernstein 21-day challenge app and every day you pick a card and my daughters would get excited to pick the card. Yeah. And when you pick a card, you can't pick another one. And they would want to. So I'm like, let me download another app that gives cards. So anyway, that's where this app came from. However, it randomly pops up throughout the day, these amazing affirmations that have changed my life, like literally. And one of them was, I can get through this. Everything is temporary. And in my head, I was like, is everything temporary?
Oh, yeah. Oh, here we go. Ready?
It's like hard for me to accept that. And is that a good thing? Like, I need your take.
Oh, my God. I love it. And, okay, yes or no questions. Remember how hard dealing with infertility was? Was that temporary?
Yes.
How about when you got unexpectedly pregnant the second time and didn't think that you would love another child the way? That was temporary. Applying to preschool, temporary. Fighting with a partner, temporary. Everything is temporary.
Like a challenge with our kids and
Everything's fleeting. And P.S. emotions are fleeting. So, of course, situations are too. I mean, when I think about how many moments are temporary.
Yes.
That's life.
Right. And it seems silly that I'm like, is that even true? I more also mean like things that seem, so I know hard. That, but like, one of my daughters having trouble with reading and writing.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that temporary? What if it's not? Like, those are the things that I struggle with.
Well, go with that one for a second. So if it's not, then what? Right? I mean, this is what we do sometimes in treatment. It's like, oh, then she needs support. Well, what is that? Then what? Then what? What does that mean? Right. Instead of it being this swirl that we can't get through it and it actually becoming pathological.
So the idea is that how you feel right now about those situations is temporary, even if it's and it is.
Yeah.
Whatever stage you're in with that situation, right? Like the struggle she might be having when we first found out seemed devastating. And then we found out that she's with 3 of her friends in the small reading group that also
wonderful. And what's better than support?
And
So
I need to remember that like even if it is an ongoing thing, that initial
shock, everything we expect. Oh my God, this doesn't feel good. So let me get rid of the feelings instead of how can these feelings now inform our family's next steps? I mean, I actually think it's really quite practical when you think about sometimes emotions. Like we think emotions are so scary and big. They're just information.
That's so helpful for me in moments with my kids and also with my spouse, with Matt.
Yes.
That sometimes when there's discomfort, he'll think we have to.
Yes.
I'm like, I'll sometimes, and I don't want to be dismissive. I'm more like, let's just wait.
Yep. Beautiful.
Right? Like
beautiful. You need to
instead
do that
of
with
reacting
and So whether it's reading or I had a patient, get a diagnosis about a child or it's glasses. And I think I know you do a really nice job at this. I certainly try in my practice. Again, more and more wide range of experiences about our kids that we didn't sign up for or expect, meaning how many people need OT and PT and are struggling with reading or ADHD. And so more normalization, right? That it's no different than us struggling to sleep tonight or get my work done, or they're all just
and if it is different, it's, because it feels like more serious or just there's more on the line and our kids, just that nobody's alone.
No.
Like there's always someone
Correct.
to hear from, to help and to support. That's like really, getting into why I do this work the way I do, and I'm definitely trying to be more, of course, mindful of my kids and not sharing like who I'm talking, because I don't want to do it at that detriment, but the whole reason to share is to like normalize the struggles. Like even me who, felt like I knew it all, like struggles.
Yeah. Well, and you're starting, I know, to reach uncharted territory with your girls where they're not in preschool anymore.
God, yes.
And like we both have to sort of giddy up and get educated on the next chapters and be humble, I think, and appropriate about it. That we are also moms who are just trying to figure it out and can still show up for so many other moms in our lives, right?
Yes.
So
I'm smiling because now when like Tess will have something and I'll talk, she's like, Mom, you're talking like you talk to the babies, like she's wrapped up what I do for a living to be like for babies, even though it might be something like that must have really been disappointing. But even the must have to her, she associates, right? Like, but
it's
even if all
2.
this stuff is exactly like it's the idea that we can then, adjust to feel more aligned with like our relationship and where our kids are and all that. Yeah.
I think a lot of moms ask me like, well, after, I'm struggling with bigger things, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. How do I trust they'll come back? And it's like the foundation begins early, make space for their emotions.
Their focus, I always remember Matt's dad being like, so you play with blocks with kids? Like how unimportant it is when they're so young. And I'm like, no, it's so important.
I agree.
It's like, the groundwork. And also for us to get into the habit of things. But
I mean, it makes me, I'll never forget some of your classes when I was, had little infants too. But I had a mom come to my office yesterday, brand new to treatment, 5 weeks old. And her presenting concern was, when my baby cries, I am terrified and my blood pressure goes through the roof. We talked about, of course, some skills and tons to process psychodynamically. But I asked her what it would be like to turn to her baby and say at 5 weeks old, I love you. I'm trying to figure this out. I need a minute and I'll be right back, and put the baby down. She looked at me like, well, he's not going to understand. That wasn't the point. It's so foundational. Yes. And she was tearful. She came back already and said, I feel so much better. I understand what's happening. I can do this.
Oh, it's like the best.
Right?
To be able to know that you can lean into that. That's like something that I feel so strongly about sharing too. Is just even talking to a 5-week-old helps you not feel like you just have to automatically know and figure out this stranger, essentially. Like,
Alien.
Yeah.
Alien,
And it's okay to be like, I don't know why you're crying. I wish I did. Mm-hmm. We're going to figure this out is literally like a mantra that I would say over and over so many times.
Agree. So then back to your like, I'm motivated only by what the kids need. You too in that moment matter.
Was benefiting.
Right?
Absolutely.
And learning that's an attachment skill.
Right. And I always share it like, say it to your baby so they know that like, motivated. But you're so right that I also know how much it helped me regulate in those moments.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Totally. Yeah, no, I'm not a complete martyr.
I know.
I definitely exaggerate it sometimes, but just that I've grown a lot in that area. Yeah. So now that we've talked a lot about my hangups and the work that I'm doing, I want to bring it to you, someone who's a psychotherapist, supports so many moms in so many different ways.
Totally.
Do you struggle?
Of course. I mean,
is there something that you're struggling with in particular?
Yeah, I said earlier, right, that the balance, what does even that word mean, is overwhelming these days, professionally, personally, from a friendship perspective. I think one thing that I know about so many of the moms I treat, and I certainly struggle with myself, is identity and how I feel I'm 700 people to 700 different things. And everyone's needs feel so great all the time. I think the work that we both do, parents really need us. And it's an always on kind of industry, which is challenging to be on the receiving end of that. Our kids are always on. That's been our theme today, right? And looking for us. But what about also being a friend and a partner and or a class mom or running a school benefit or a volunteer? I mean, these are all really other important, a daughter-in-law, a sister-in-law, a granddaughter. That's a huge important value in my life too. Really hard to find the time.
And like the bandwidth and mental, emotional capacity.
Capacity, that's a good way to say it. I always am thinking about how hard the mental load was for me becoming a new mom back then. I just remember feeling like there's 400 things to do all at the same time. How do you prioritize?
I know.
Do we have toilet paper in the same thought as what are we doing in 3 months from tomorrow? And it's just so overwhelming and overstimulating. And I think this whole episode we've been talking about how important it is for us to care for ourselves as moms too. I had an experience this week with the same daughter. Hopefully my little one will get some airtime the next time I come back. But I was really struck by this, and I think people will find it quite profound. I was picking her up in between patients because there was a child care breakdown. This was just last week.
What do you mean breakdown?
Meaning nanny was with my little one who was napping in a faraway place.
Right. Okay, so something you needed to
I
come
needed
in.
to be on, but I was seeing 6 women that day. And my office is around the corner from their preschool, which is around the corner from our home. And yet the logistics were overwhelming. And my husband was at his office. My parents are away. So mom, right, needed to show up. And so when I arrived at school, again, made that choice. I could either like sort of hustle through, no snack, drop her off, or I moved a patient 10 minutes, literally just that simple. And we sort of laughed the way home. She was surprised to see me. We were both giggling. She was on my back at some point. And when I said, "How's your day, sweetie?" and we did the classic pit and peek and whatnot, it's not typical that my kids will say to me, "How's your day?" But that day, my big daughter said to me, "How's your day?" And I said, "I'm having a nice day. I'm having a nice day." And she says, "What did you do today?" So maybe they taught them that at school. I don't know. So I said, Mommy took care of 3 moms today so far. And I can't even tell you, Jenny, there was no breath from Violet. She just looked at me and said, "Who takes care of you?"
I'm going to cry again now.
I almost got hit by a car. That was the pause. Like, I think I lost feeling in my body. I was just so struck. And we had an important conversation about how mommy also has someone, my Violet tells everyone she wants to be a therapist doctor too. That's what she calls it. So I told Violet, mommy has a therapist doctor. Did you know that? That helps me take care of myself. I said, "Do you think daddy takes care of mommy?" And her answer, sorry, Brandon, was, "Yeah, he makes you eggs."
That's so cute.
And then we
though.
talked about my parents. And then I said, "I'm working on it. It's hard for mommy to take care of mommy. It's not something Bubby did a lot for herself. And so mommy doesn't really know how. And I'm working on it." And oh my goodness, does that not speak to it being an evolution to be so many things to so many people?
Yes.
Yeah,
that is like just the most meaningful way to end this. But before we do, I just want to also say what a choice you made and what a reward for that choice, that it would have been a conversation that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And again, not to evoke guilt, but usually when we take the time to pause and just give in to moments, that we learned something leave it with like, I'm so glad that I made that choice.
Which I also want everyone to know, I also get all day long with my patients, right? Those 45 minutes I get to spend with women throughout the day, and I know you get to do in groups and in other, formats. It's the same feeling of, I'm so glad we could be together today.
Yeah.
And so it matters everywhere, not just with our kids, but being present in what
letting go when we're in those moments. Yeah. Yes.
So
thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
This was
best. Can we have more time?
Yes, I need more. We need you on many more times.
Nice to be here.
I want people to know where they could find you.
I have a website with elizabethb.com, and I'm on Instagram at the same place. I want everyone to know that in addition to my individual work, I'm launching a whole host of groups in a lot of different places and working with a lot of brands to just give moms more chances to show up for themselves, right?
Amazing. I'm so glad that you shared it.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. Thank you all for listening.